Good day to you, or good evening to you, whichever it might be. I'm Spicy Lad, or Sichuan if you prefer, and today we're doing another speculation video. I was going to proofread my script for my Unseen Figures video finale focusing on the man in Unknown Valentine, but just yesterday, at least at the time of writing this, a string of thoughts has led me somewhere else, driving me to a new design observation on a certain other character that may tie things in with Undertale and Deltarune together better than we had prior. Who is this character? Well, it's a fairly typical Undertale Deltarune theory video, so it's Gaster time, baby! As you might surmise, this is going to be a less formal video than what I've been doing so far, not to undermine my new observation in theory, but primarily to reflect how manic I was when I had my little eureka moment. This will be covering the series of events first, then getting to the perceived realization and its implications, specifically about how Gaster might have been more than only a scientist. As usual, even if the game doesn't eventually reflect what I recently began believing, I'm here to explain it with passion, with at least the goal to entertain and inspire y'all in the process. So, this started when I was editing my part 2 video on the Unknown Valentine, specifically here, where I was editing Friend over Cyclops' face. As I mirrored this fucking thing, I noticed something. Hey, like this, it looks like Friend isn't just looking to the side, as we all knew, but also maybe slightly angled? Might explain the seemingly misshapen eye, albeit not much else, still looks unnervingly like a placeholder image. This got me wondering, is there anything else in these games that we might have taken for granted, at least in terms of appearance? It didn't take long for Gaster/Mystery Man to come to mind, naturally. Thusly, I tried the same with both of his sprites. Sure enough, he then looked to be angled a tad to the side, which was weird to see. Remember to flip your canvas, kids, not just as an artist, but as a viewer. It's here that another spark of inspiration crossed my mind. If it's true that Gaster's not facing straight on, what would he look like if he did? With that prospect, I put my pixel artistry to work and made a pretty good mock-up if I do say so myself. Although, it's about halfway through drawing the idle sprite that I began thinking again. Why exactly is Gaster's torso like a cylinder or cone? Is it because of his lowered integrity, like his head and hands seem to suffer from? Or is it his attire? I began pondering about any sort of outfit that'd make a person look that way, prioritizing Undertale and Deltarune for references that I could remember off the top of my head. And then it hit me. Is Gaster wearing a priest's robe? Was Dr. Gaster also a priest? If this is true, this would explain way too much, or at least make things a lot more concise. The entire outfit topologically looks eerily similar to Father Alvin's. The shelter is only one room away from the church, being directly south from it, and those are the least of it. This connects Gaster's motifs both with each other and with the plot of Deltarune even better now. The Gaster followers, from this viewpoint, are probably following Gaster in a religious or cult way. This was always a consideration, but now, whoa. The 666 motif, sharing the forbidden knowledge, the holes in his hands, and the religious icons in Wingding's font. Of course, not to mention souls, heaven, the angel, especially being part of the Deltarune religion, and probably the depths too, if that's true. This might be what led him to his experiments. Did Gaster work at the church? With how the meta elements seem to integrate divinity, would this be how Azrael started worrying about the quote-unquote green lizard from his game instead of Toriel, like I originally thought? Did Gaster gain his followers via sermon? Would this also be part of Chris's backstory in some degree? Maybe the vessel by extension? Oh god. Ooh, what about Monster Kid? I'm even more fearful for their safety with that cross necklace now. As if them checking out the shelter wasn't already enough, knowing that Goner Kid is a thing. And with all that, was HBC accidentally right about Gaster's theme's file name being a pun on Saint Him? Well, that was certainly something. That's about all there is to it. We've known Gaster to have religious iconography in some of his motifs and whatnot for just shy of a decade. Moreover, this new observation of mine could bring it all together much better, no longer solely relying on Gaster did angel-y stuff as a scientist. He'd not just be an initial outsider who got involved with the subject through his experiments, rather, it was his pre-existing involvement that begot the experiments. Now, what would this change about our understanding if this Saint Him theory of mine turns out to be true? Within the foreseeable future, this may mean probably more natural hinting and exposition on Gaster and his history within the context of Alvin, Gerson, and the Church, especially if that's a future Darkworld location. We'd get some of that anyway, of course, not in the least because it's in the mid-game, but I don't think I need to explain further why someone who was presumably a priest would have a strong relation to a local place of divine worship. There'd be more to this, as y'all imagine, but beyond the enrichment of explicit and implied exposition on the Doctor, that's about it for semi-specific tangible changes. It's a big shakeup in perspective for Gaster's personal history, but does very little in the way of us grasping his actions and surrounding consequences, at least in how else we currently understand them. Even if this turns out false, it inversely wouldn't hurt much of anything either. What do y'all think? I hope that y'all were able to find enjoyment in my brain-rotten delusions. Then again, perhaps I shouldn't be self-deprecating so much. Perhaps have some confidence in my theories and opinions. Please do comment about any additions or contentions you may have. Perhaps maybe tune in for more inane yet well-researched ramblings about Toby Fox games. The next video is going to be the part 3 video, I promise. Good, time of day to you. Take care.